7 o'clock, and I will call this October 20th meeting of the Belmond Klemme School Board to order. Could I have roll call, please?
Rick McDaniel.
Here.
Michelle Murphy. Here. Sharon Barkma. Gary Berkland.
Here.
Ryan Meyer.
Here.
Heather Ridgway. Here. Jim Swenson.
Here. We have a quorum. Sharon did text me, and they're obviously farming, so she apologized she wouldn't be here tonight. Welcome visitors and communications. Did we receive anything?
I received nothing.
Communicate. We're not talking any real controversial stuff tonight, so okay. Well, we don't have anything there. Next would be approval amendment to the agenda. Do you have any amendments for us?
No, nothing.
Okay. Looking for a motion to approve it. Got it from Jim. Second, Gary. Any discussion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. We have an agenda. Next up would be the consent items. Has everybody had a chance to go through all those? Okay, I would look for a motion for the consent items.
Motion.
Motion.
Second.
Second. Any discussion on any of the consent items? I would say I'm a little excited for baseball.
I'm so excited.
I mean, and I would thank everybody that worked diligently to have this done this time of year instead of right before season starts. That is awesome. So if there's no further discussion, I would ask for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next up, we'll have reports. Student program updates. Career and Tech Ed.
Mr. David Butler is here tonight. Would like to talk with the group. Not about wrestling.
Well, I can talk about that too.
I think he can talk about almost any topic we want.
Excuse me, kids. Can I get on the screen, please?
Certainly can. Let me get out here. And my apologies, we should have started out when we were doing your attendance. We have our two student representatives here tonight. If you two would like to introduce yourself.
I'm Ben Eckhoff. I'm a senior here.
I'm Ellie Hinman, and I'm also a senior.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
We got the mature ones up, right?
I think so.
You got the notes, even though I forgot to send them to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't be afraid if I forget, and I will again. Don't be afraid to email me, or you can always find them online, because as soon as I send them out to the board, they automatically go online too.
And do not be afraid to speak up with how you feel about a topic in here, because honestly, that's why you're here. Okay, you represent the students.
Yelling and screaming is probably not the best.
I'll keep note of that. Well, thank you very much. I tried to get a couple kids to come with me, and everybody said no, and so I just decided to take it on myself to come down here. I'm going to talk to you tonight about the Industrial Arts Department down on the South Wing here at school. These are the following classes that gets offered through the Industrial Arts Department. CAD 1, 2, and 3, Woods 1 and 2, Metals, Power and Energy, Thunder and Carpentry, Advanced Construction, of course, 8th grade tech. Here you can read that what I do in 8th grade tech. In general, I teach kids to run 3 machines, the bandsaw, the drill press, and the sander. The kids are also taught to run basic hand tools. The third bullet there is something I find very sad about the whole situation. I spend one whole period with this class, and all we do is pound 1.5 inch brad nails into pieces of 2x4, because most kids don't know which end of the hammer to use, or that the point of the nail goes in the board. So we really do spend a whole period on how to handle a hammer and how to nail a nail into a piece of wood. Here's some of the activities that I have them do, and they get to take these all home with them when they get done. The two games, the tic-tac-toe game and the golf tee game, when they first start doing this, they grumble quite a bit about it until we do it. And it really ends up being fun, especially with the golf tee game after they figure out. If you've ever been to Crackle Barrel, it's a triangle that's got 15 holes in it, and you jump the tees out until you get down to one. The next bullet down there is we learn how to finish a project and the care and treatment of what goes on in the paint room, cleaning ourselves up with. The last 2 weeks we do popsicle stick bridges, and after 5 years, I finally figured out how to break them. It's probably disappointing to them, but they're given parameters to build these. And I take one of the step ladders out in the shop, and I bought a set of scales that registers in pound, and I hunk a come along onto them, and we pull them down, and we keep recording what the maximum amount of pressure is. This year, the winning time pull was 537 pounds on a popsicle stick bridge. That is between 10 and 13 inches long, one popsicle stick wide, and then I show them how to get the support and all that. Of course, we're taught how to use work safely and use materials and clean up. And this year, the fall kids, they did so well that I have a set of 10 solar cars, and I just ordered some more of them because my stock's getting a little depleted. But they put those together. They're very simple. They got a solar panel, a motor, and 4 wheels. And they've been out on the parking lot out there running them up and down there to see how fast they go. The CAD classes, the first CAD class, we just do paper and pencil drawing. We do about 100 drawings per semester, and the kids all tell me how much paper they're wasting. And I said, don't worry about it. I usually plant 2 to 3 trees a year, so we're covered. The third bullet is what they do for different drawings. And the one thing that irritates them more than anything is that we do a lot of general math down there. Not to brag, but we do a section on Butler math that I'm sorry to say that nobody else I've ever heard teaches some fractions the way that I do. And so they get Butler math indoctrinated in them. After Thanksgiving, they'll come in and we'll start doing some simple house plans. They can either pull those off the internet or do the one they live in, and then this class helps sets up for the other CAD classes. 2 and 3, we use Inventor and AutoCAD. AutoCAD, we do a lot of the same drawings we do in CAD 1. We get them up on the computer and we get them drawn and go from there. Inventor's a program for 3D drawings. A lot of the 3D, one of the first things I have them do is I have them do a cube game that they put together. They make the individual cubes and then they have to make the pieces. If you haven't seen it, it's a 7-piece game. It's got different shapes, cube shapes, but it's different. It's got some L's and some bends to it. And they build each one of these pieces, and then I go to the 3D printer and we print them all off, and they take that home with them too. Also, Inventor, one of the things I have done and have worked on is, for example, we build a trailer, we build a frame, we put that off in a folder. They build the wheels, they build the axles, they build the tongue, and then they go back into this folder and they can combine this all together to see if they come up with a trailer. The other thing I've done is I've stole a locomotive project from I can't think of the program right now, but anyway, we built a locomotive engine and we printed a couple of them off. That one takes quite a bit, so I went back to building the trailer. CAD 4 is all about architectural drafting. They do it on paper first, then we draw it on AutoCAD, and then we go out in the shop and build a 3/4 inch model. In other words, 3/4 inches to the foot. I cut the boards all out myself to build this model house. It's a basic stiff frame house. If time permits, I go on the internet and I'll print off shingles or siding, and that kind of stuff, and they'll glue it onto this house. We build it on a piece of cardboard. I've even printed off trees and all this, so they can even make it look like a house. And they can take that project home when they want to. Power and energy. In this class, we do small engines and electricity labs. I have them do alternative energy reports, and of course, the last thing we do is build CO2 cars, and we race them up and down the hallway past Corey's office and disrupt everybody because we're usually kind of loud about that. When I first came, I was able to get small engines from Honda, and all it cost the school was the delivery fee of them, which was like $350, and we got 27 engines to do that. It's a program from them. I built the electricity labs. I got a grant from the electric union in Des Moines, and was also able to purchase some tools and consumables with that grant. Energy reports, of course, are done on the computer. I just threw this one in there. We're going to have time this year with the kids. A lot of times I'll bring in my vehicles. We'll detail them. Not many people hand wax their vehicles anymore. I teach them how to do that since we don't have an automotive class. And we'll go in and we'll clean the interior and just general care of the outside and inside of your car. CO2 cars is a fun time. Of course, then we race them down the hallway. I was able to update the launcher that we have. Students get to design and paint their own vehicles the way they want to. I give them some criteria on that. At random, I put the kids in a bracket depending on how many we have, and I just pull their names out of a hat. And we just go usually it's 1 through 16 to line up the bracket, and off we go and race them. The sad part, the biggest thing that's been the disappointment is when COVID hit. I had Power and Energy that spring, and the kids are about halfway through their cars, and they didn't get to race them. Introduction to construction and furniture and cabinet making are woods 1 and 2. Students learn the importance of cleanup and safety. We go back through and we learn how to run all the machines out there with safety tests. Intro to construction is they have to do a paper safety test, so I have a copy of it on file in case for legal reasons. And furniture and cabinet making, all they do is do an oral test for me to pass it. They have required projects that they must complete before they work on their own projects, and then they can start working on whatever they want to. Belmond Klemme has been very lucky that they got the wood given to them from when they closed down the wood plant up here for Winnebago. I can't believe the pile of oak when I came here that was sitting down there. It's just phenomenal. And then I took, I don't know, 40 or 50 boards out of the old bleachers and kept them. I helped Corey clean out the bus barn one day with some wood stuff that was over there. And so we've been pretty fortunate that a lot of kids have brought in their own materials, but kids that couldn't afford materials, BK's been able to have them. Fundamentals in carpentry and advanced carpentry. These are 2 classes that are the construction part. And it may not be in the traditional sense that we think about construction this. Currently, we're working on, one doghouse right now. I'm going to do 2. We worked with the ag department on the flower stand for the greenhouse.
Out of the doghouse.
Sorry. We built cabinets and made cement countertops for the ag room. If you haven't been down to see those, that was pretty awesome. We went over to Mr. Lane's house and worked on his porch. We've made the yard signs and some other signs for that. We've helped Corey build several items around the school, as well as community members have come in and asked me if we wouldn't help them out a little bit. And I'm going to say we, but most of it was I. Completely installed the dust collection system that's now in the wood shop, which was no small undertaking. The cons here I'd like to go at with the industrial arts department here. The kids complain that there's no auto shop lifted, but there's no room for a lift, and obviously there's no room for me in my schedule. The wood shop, we're running out of space for new equipment, and there's a need for new stick welders in the future here that need to be purchased. The pros, most of all and I should have put woodworking equipment, plus a lot of the metalworking too, but most of the woodworking has been updated since I've been here. I don't think people realize the variety of equipment our kids get to use that I have worked very hard to get put in here, and I'm not bragging on myself. to be honest with you, I like playing with them too. We have a 3D printer, CD router, CD plasma cutter, a sheet metal roller, which is awesome out there. I purchased a 3-burner forge. I have the kids make a standard screwdriver out of drill rod. They heat it up and they pound it all up, and it's mine. It's going with me when I decide to retire. We've got a new ventilation system in the metal shop, which is just awesome, and in the wood shop, of course. I have increased enrollment since I've been here. Mrs. Barkle and I, we work very well together down there in the southwest corner. We've helped her out in the greenhouse. She's helped us out in the shop. I really feel very successful on the flower stuff we've built for her. I think it's really helped her out to get plants out the door. I just put in an order this morning for a new laser engraver for signs and plaques and possibly mugs with Perkins money. Students are very great in my area and treat the equipment and me with much respect. My goals is it's not to train the students for a career, but to show them all the opportunities that are out there. We could be gone every day of the week, especially in the month of October, because not only is it every other thing for this month, but it's also construction month. I demand that they put the most effort in that they can do, the best that they can do, and provide students. Hopefully, I provide them with life skills, knowledge, not textbooks, for them to make good decisions. This is the cart that we made last year for Mrs. Barkle at a cell with the greenhouse. This is Bryson's Warren's table. He brought it in, and we routed out the whole center of that where the pictures are, and then we poured that whole thing with acrylic so they could put it up in there. This is, and I can't think of Al Safe's last name to save my soul. Yeah, this is a hanging table, and to this day, it still takes me a little while to figure out how that works. None of those chains are welded together. It's all supported in the middle. And he come up to me, he showed it to me, and it took us a long time to figure that one out, but it was really pretty cool when we got it done. We built brand new volleyball boxes this fall for the volleyball team. She wanted them a little bit wider, so we got the materials. And somebody was nice enough over in an orange shirt over there donated the carpet for the top of the boxes. These are the new flower pots we just built that I just took them. We delivered 4 of them, 2 over to the elementary and 2 up to the district office, and 2 are still down in my office. So that there'll be some consistency with the flower boxes that sit out in the front of the school. Here's Jose Andrada with the metal toolbox that he makes in Metal Shop. The kids have been working on rebuilding a trailer for me. The only thing that's original on that trailer is the tongue that goes all the way through and part of the axle. We split the axle and put a piece in it and had to line it all up, and we finally got the floor in it. Now we're trying to fish wires through to put lights on it. By the way, just so we're clear, I paid for everything that's in there. Here are 2 students doing CAD 1 drawings. This was kind of a mess and it's hard to see, but I just thought about this after the kids all left. This is those small engines all tore apart out in the shop, and we're just getting ready to put them back together. And here's my last one, of course. If you don't know who that represents, then you're too young for me. Any questions? Like I said, I just ordered a brand from Perkins Money. I just ordered a brand new. It's 24 inches deep and 40 inches wide. A laser engraver. Miss Barkle and I kind of decided that was something we wanted together. She would like to get to the point where she's engraving plaques to hand out for FFA, and they're not cheap at all for her to do. And we thought, well, if we can get this and use it. The other thing that's on our mind is tumblers that are like that. I bought a attachment that goes on it that will rotate it 360 degrees, and you'll be able to etch on a tumbler or on a mug, whatever you need to. And it also, the other part of it is, it comes with a water cooler that was kind of a necessity. I did not buy the exhaust system with it because of, in talking to the company we got with the area that we have out in the metal shop and with the exhaust fans we got, if we're over there where the air is moving up in there, it will eliminate all the gases that come off of this. Shouldn't be anything toxic, but it's just the idea of getting those fumes up out of there. The nice thing about it is it does not do stainless steel, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with stainless steel, and I don't do anything with stainless steel in the shop. Is it puts off a gas called hexavalochlorine, and it almost, when it gets in your system, it causes cancer like right now. And I never let the kids do it, nor do I let them work with galvanized material because zinc oxide comes off of it, and you will be throwing up within matters of minutes after welding on it. And so anything like that, I just completely eliminate from doing anything with. They can teach that up at NIAC and do all that stuff. But that's where we're at in the shop out there.
Board members, anybody like to comment or ask David some questions?
I think it's fascinating, truly. I don't have many of those skill sets. And it's amazing what you're able to teach kids about all of these techniques that they can take with them when they leave the school.
Not to toot my own horn, of course, but the sad part is the two places in the state of Iowa right now that you can get a degree in industrial arts don't even come close to teaching what I learned when I was in college. And that's really pretty sad, because if you want to know what I know, you have to go down to Kirkwood and take your general industrial arts class, and then get up to UNI to get your education degree with it. And up at UNI, it's all tech. There's no hands-on stuff whatsoever. And the other nice thing is I guess I've had lots and lots of kids go out in the world and be successful. So I don't.
What's your average class size?
About 10. The biggest one this year, I have 14 in CAD 1. I can, like, for example, I've got room for 16 kids in my class with the tables we have, and I have, for some reason, we lost the lab during COVID. I don't know who took it, but whatever. I can have up to 15 kids and power and energy. Like I said, we got all kinds of small engines, so that's not an issue. I had 10 in that class. I run about 10, which is perfect, because then I can get around to everybody and see what's going on.
Sounds like we're very lucky to have you here, David.
Thank you.
There are the
Thank you for the update.
other questions, comments from David? Since nobody else will jump on this, I'll jump on it. Let's back up. You have the kids clean, detail, and wax your car. Do you need other cars?
I was gonna say that.
That was one of the notes I wrote down.
Why no?
Why no? I thought we just.
I have enough to bring back every weekend, so we got something new to work on. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Someone said that was payment for being on the board, was getting a car detail.
It wasn't my contract. So.
Oh,
Could I park mine down there and be first in line?
And I don't know if you guys, I don't know if you guys had noticed this or not, but we had a real problem last year about the kids parking out by the greenhouse, and I put a notice up on the door that they aren't supposed to park back there. And the other thing I did is I made 3 signs that says Industrial Arts Department, Maintenance Department, and FFA Department, and I hung them up on the building. And Corey and Mrs. Barkla and myself, we have private parking spots back there. And I guess that's the perk of nobody else paying attention to what I do down there. But BK can be very proud of what they have for a shop and down there in the ag department too, because I believe last year that there was 6 schools in the state of Iowa that had to get rid of their industrial arts program because they did not have anybody apply for it. They didn't even have anybody come out of industry to apply for it. And so I'm a dying commodity. That's, and it's really sad because like Rick and I were just talking about, if you want to do hands-on work, there's so many jobs. I mean, Michael Rowe is my hero, so.
You can, I mean, college isn't for everybody. You know, it really isn't. And honestly, we were just talking, like my one son, he's decided he wants to do something with his hands. He's not sure yet what. But I mean, he can end up going through a apprenticeship with a union. They pay you while you do it. I mean, he can end up coming out of a union somewhere, out of his apprenticeship, making more starting out than I do after 30 years of doing my job. And you can write your own ticket in most of the fields anymore, whether it's welding, plumbing, HVAC, you know, whatever, carpentry. Masons are hugely in demand. That is a dying breed.
And it's kind of an oxymoron for me because here I preach to all them kids about going to a trade school, and yet industrial arts teachers are needed
Yes.
badly, and I say, you don't have to go to college to do this. Well, I mean.
Kind of shooting yourself in the
Yeah,
foot there
shoot
with
myself
teachers,
in my
aren't you?
foot. But I try.
But you can do both.
You can do both.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the time.
Yes, thank you for sticking around and doing this tonight.
Okay, next up on ours is school improvement, the fast testing data from fall.
Elementary wasn't ready for tonight, but Mr. Meyer is here tonight and is going to talk about the secondary fast day.
He was.
I'm right here.
Oh.
He was napping back there. You woke him up.
Yeah, correct.
He was afraid that
He
he
was
would
just trying
crash.
to reconnect to the.
My kids aren't here, so this is the only time I can sleep sometimes. Yeah, I just have a little bit, and if anybody has any questions as I go through this in my spiel, feel free to stop me. I can stop and talk about whatever it is, but just doing a little bit of like standardized testing here at the secondary level, and as well as what we kind of do with the data on top of that, and kind of what it's all about. So kind of the two different forms of standardized testing that we have here at BK is we have fast testing and ISASP. So when we're talking about fast testing over here, we have what's called A reading and A math, and essentially FastBridge is a company that comes up with these tests. They right now only really have like A reading and A math that we use. I should say not bi-yearly, but tri-yearly. We do this 3 times a year in the fall, winter, spring. And really what this does is it gives us just a really quick snapshot of our students on track to meet grade level standards is what it is. So students are doing this in their math class, in their English classes, and it's really just like a quick snapshot. It asks a series of questions, and it gives us an idea of, okay, where are students in terms of their progress towards grade level standards. And then obviously at the end of the year, kind of the big culminating assessment that we have is ISASP. And that's a couple more things that go into ISASP, but that's more of looking back and trying to figure out have students achieved those grade level standards. So that's kind of the difference between those two, that FAST is more of like progress monitoring tool, and then ISASP is more of like a here's where students have, how students have progressed throughout the entire year.
Mr. Meyer,
Is the difference on those.
that's not fast testing because it's a quick test, is it?
Yeah, and I honestly don't even know what FastBridge, I don't even know what necessarily what it is. I mean, if you think about that compared to ISASP, you maybe took like Iowa Test of Basic Skills, it's much less intensive than that in terms of the length of the test and that sort of thing. It's more of like just a quick snapshot and that sort of thing. Yep. So what we kind of do with that then is we interpret the numbers in a couple of different ways. The first way that we interpret the numbers is we kind of group students a little bit like red, yellow, green on a screener that we have. And this kind of just shows us like what percentile students have reached. So you can look up there, anything that's 19th or below, we kind of like check, we put in red. Yellow is 20 to 30. That's like, hey, these are some students that maybe we need to monitor. That sort of thing, looking at are they lacking any sort of skill to reach grade level standard, and then green is proficient. And I know that's a really, really long, like 31% to 100%. There's a lot that falls into that category. But really the big thing with this is just like a one snapshot, like one test in one class. There's lots of data that we get. No data is necessarily the be all end all. This is just one snapshot that we get with that. So like looking at the numbers, we can go and we have a spreadsheet where we categorize these students depending on how they've done on the ISET, or on the FAST test. So this gives us the number of students that fall into each of these categories at each grade level, as well as the percentages are down below. So up here, the reason why it's like for math and reading, the 5 just represents 5 students that fall into that below 19th percentile. The yellow would be the students that fall in that middle percentile, and then those students that are proficient. And then down below, it's just the percentages of those. That's the difference between those things, is what we have. In all of those different categories is what we have. You will notice that one of those things that is positive about this is we do have quite a few students are in that proficient category. There is such a large gap with that though as well, that this is just one piece that we take from all of these different testing systems that we have. And what we do with this is we actually have a screener that we use where I shouldn't say we, this is a lot of like James and Callie, honestly, I speak on them. They do a great job with this. I do very, very little with this. They do most of this, where we have a whole bunch of different data points that they came up with, and we update this screener, and it essentially over here in this sum category, I have names blacked out because I didn't necessarily want to get into names, but this gives us just an idea of some students that are struggling in terms of like their academic performance, how often they're showing up to school, whether they have home factors that we're aware of. ISASP and FAST testing is a part of this as well. So trying to get like a big picture and put some data to this, just to see if there's some students that we might not necessarily recognize as a staff that are having difficulties, but some of this data can help us do that. Like any student that is in red is students that have like some severe needs according to the data that we have, whether they have a lot of things going on in home life, their FAST testing essentially showing that they're behind the grade level, their ISASP data, all of that. And then yellow, green, so on and so forth, where green would be people that, not necessarily that we're not worried about them, but the data doesn't necessarily show anything discrepant between them and their peers, is what we do with that. And then really the big thing here with that, we also have some like ISASP data, is we're talking a lot about teachers with this, that teachers are inundated and educators are inundated with just a lot of information right now and data, whether it's like data, initiatives, mandates, things that we have. So really what we're doing this year is something called Teacher Clarity for our when we have early outs, we're doing something called Teacher Clarity for our PD. And really the basics of this is taking all of this data, mandates, and initiatives and trying to funnel it down to figure out, okay, from all of this information, we can't just look at FAST testing and use that as our only data point for are we being successful with our students. There's way more data points with that. So we're trying to figure out how do we take this stuff and how do we funnel it down to like, okay, what is it that's really important for students to know? That can be content related, that could be social emotional learning related, that can be like what Mr. Butler just said in terms of career and technical related. What is exactly we want students to know by the time they get out of here? And then with that, we need to know if these are kind of the concepts that we want them to know, what is the specific things that we want them to know, understand, or be able to do. This might be things that they need to be able to demonstrate, things that they need to be able to like communicate, all of that sort of thing. And then last but not least, okay, then how exactly are we going to teach that? Is kind of trying to get that all funneled down. Because a lot of times it's really difficult in education because we have a great staff and our staff works very hard. And sometimes when you look at this assessment data, sometimes it can feel like a gut punch if it's not the assessment data that we want. And I think sometimes the natural reaction is, okay, well, we need to ask staff to work harder. Staff needs to do more. When a lot of times this teacher clarity is actually the opposite of that, where it's more of, why don't we try to funnel down, and instead of trying to teach more, we need to actually teach less to a greater level, if that makes sense. Like, what are those things that are really important that students need to know that show up on these standardized tests? Because you can look into that and we can dig into that, and that's some things that we're kind of doing. So instead of telling teachers, you need to teach more math, it's no, we need to teach math in a slightly different way, for example, and just funnel it down to really the basics of what students need to know. I mean, that's the art of teaching, is taking complex concepts and boiling them down to their very basic points and making it easier for students to understand, in my opinion. So that's kind of what we're doing with fast data and all.
One of the examples of that I have heard so many times, people who are older, we're not talking about people in school, they have no concept of dealing with fractions.
Sure.
I heard, Mr. Butler talk about he has his own fraction teaching techniques, which is wonderful. But the reality is, people need to know fractions.
Sure. We
know how to cut a watermelon in 3 pieces, or 6, or 4. And why that is such a it's hard for me to understand why people struggle with fractions. I've never figured that out, but I hear that all the time.
Sure.
And if that's something they need to know, then we can maybe simplify that so it is something they will always remember.
There's a story that goes around that after the McDonald's came out with the quarter pounder, that Burger King came out with the 1/3 pounder, but it was a flop because people thought it was smaller.
Sure. Because 3 is smaller than 4.
3 is smaller than
3 is smaller than 4.
Once you've acquired this data.
Yep.
Okay, you got it. You know what you got to work with. You know what your problem is. What are you doing? What's the hands-on? Because you've got 5 kids, or 10 kids in that
Sure.
lower echelon there.
Yep.
That, for lack of better words, these kids are gonna get lost between the cracks.
Sure.
And you got a teacher that has got a classroom of 14, 16 kids. She's got 5 that need extra time.
Yep.
How are you addressing that?
Yeah, and our teachers are doing a great job trying to differentiate. I know we have lots of systems that are in place there, whether it be like a structured study hall. So we have students, and this isn't necessarily based on the test scores, but this is based on like students' grades, where Krista Carlson does a great job, that if a student has below or has an F in one class, instead of being in the study hall down there, just because there's only one teacher there, and Mr. Wilkinson kind of has a hard time being able to monitor all of that, we do have students that are coming in here. I know we have a lot more students this year in particular that are coming in from 7:45 to 8:15 to work with teachers. But yeah, and that's one of those things that what I will say is we're trying to do all of those things. But then again, how can we do that like kind of systemically? The question is systemically, how can we do that in a way that's not just asking teachers to get here earlier and stay here later? Not that teachers aren't willing to do that, because teachers are, for sure. But we're also talking systemically how to do that as well. And that's kind of our PD when we have our early out PDs. What we're doing a lot with that is trying to take all of these complex concepts and break it down into like, what is the essential that we want students to know from this? And trying to be really, really clear with students with that. So if we do that, for example, if we know we're teaching fractions and we want students to be able to add and subtract fractions,
Right.
Knowing that and knowing that that is the basics, I can then be way more clear with my teaching, and I can then adjust my teaching as needed to just that concept, rather than trying to teach add, subtract, multiply, divide fractions all at the same time. Trying to do all of it at once just isn't as effective.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Put in? We do have co-teaching where our special ed teachers are in the classrooms with our general ed teachers in English and in math. So that helps. They can pull those kids that are really needing something extra to give them that, and the other teachers. So that means 2 teachers in the classroom. We're fortunate enough to have 17 associates on staff, and they help. And we don't know when those 5 are. There's a possibility that those 5 in that math right there could be an IEP student. So of course they're getting that extra too. So there's a lot of extra that's happening behind the scenes. Hopefully when we get ready to do this in the winter, that 5 becomes a 4. But again, if it's an IEP student, there's a reason that they're on an IEP, and they're not at that grade level. So there's a lot of work being done behind the scenes that people don't know. But that's just a few things that we're doing, as well as what Justin's talking about.
Yeah.
Do you see that the spreadsheet that Kelly and James do coincides with this?
Coincides with this.
Like, do you see the same kids that are in the red on that?
Absolutely.
It is. It's exactly the same thing.
Oh, and this is the same, this is one, this is one piece of
Oh,
this,
because I
right?
thought they kept a big spreadsheet.
That
Yeah,
is
so that's what this is, and this is for example, their their ISAS reading, or their fast reading and their fast math is this score right here. But for the most part, are the students that are struggling, are they students that are struggling in other areas? Absolutely. I was told as an educator once that if you understood a lot of the reasons why students were struggling, it wouldn't make you mad at that student and make you want to cry. It's one of those things, and that is part of it too. But again, that's not to say that we can just say like the data is the data. We are trying to look at the data and use the data and become more efficient teachers. And
So but you're not saying that there is any particularly one reason a student is not achieving like it should. I mean,
absolutely.
in some cases, it's language. Sometimes it's that they have no time to spend on the subject matter, or it's a mental health issue, or I can imagine tons of reasons why kids can't learn.
Absolutely.
Maybe they haven't eaten anything for 2 days.
And one of the things about this sort of assessment data and things like that that's somewhat unfortunate is the fact that a lot of times community members, they see like our data results, whether it's ISAS or something like that, comes down to school report card, when at the end of the day, that's one dipstick at one time for one student, that it's literally just one time they took it in a particular class, and that's what it is. So with that, again, this data is something that we use and we look at. It's not all that we look at. There's other contextual pieces that we use as well. And that's where that MTSS screener kind of comes in, that this is more like the data behind a lot more than just necessarily those particular test scores. So yes, I think we recognize some of the holes, and staff members do a really good job of recognizing some of the holes that we might have in test scores. We've got a lot of students that are succeeding according to that. I don't want to just focus on the negatives. We have a lot of students that are succeeding with that. We do recognize also that there's students that aren't failing, and we have lots of things that we are trying to do with those students for sure. That Ms. Jensen mentioned that we're trying to do there, and with our teacher clarity, we're trying to break it down to make it simpler for students to know what exactly it is that we want them to know, understand, and be.
Do you compare year over year what you guys see? Like, so a seventh grader this year, first quarter, is it always usually like about that same percentage every year?
Usually we do have a year over year. I don't have the spreadsheet up here. You will every once in a while, again, with the data, you will every once in a while get a student that all of a sudden is like, holy cow, that student just dropped like 100 percentage points on fast. Mm-hmm. Could it have been that that student was having a difficult mental health day, and then the time that they took the test, they just went through and clicked and clicked and clicked and clicked, even though that teacher was trying to tell them, hey, we need to take our time on this? Absolutely, that happens.
Sure.
And that's one of those things that contextually it's difficult sometimes to know exactly what all of that means.
Sure.
That ISAS stuff that I showed you this summer, that compared grade to like third.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, how the fastest.
Yeah, and we sure could do that. We'll should do it again in May, so that'd be something we could for sure do.
And we do that on one of the spreadsheets that we have. I don't know off the top of my head, and there's probably a student's name on it, so I won't necessarily pull that up. But we do that where we compare kind of hearing. I know our special ed teachers look at that an awful lot, right, because that's one piece that we use for special ed and monitoring special ed to figure out. Because one of the things to get students into special education or out of special education is how discrepant are they compared to their peers. So fast testing is one of those things that is used for that.
Right.
To make sure I understand perfectly, you have the ability and do track a student from the time they come here until they leave.
Yes.
So then we have the ability to teach to those kids that are struggling if we just apply those understandings to what the subject matter might be, and that's what you're trying to do is adapt that.
Absolutely. We have a lot of that. We just did a PD yesterday, where our EL teacher, Tiffany Landrum, did a great job of showing us some data that she has. So our EL students, for example, this is just something that came to the top of my mind. Our EL students take an ELPA test every year, and that gives us in reading, writing, speaking, and listening how proficient they are when it comes to English language acquisition. And to pump up Mr. Butler, he said, yeah, I know this student's level 1 when it comes to listening in my class. So he said, I can't just sit there and explain to this student what it is that they're supposed to be doing. So he takes that student aside and he demonstrates with him saying like, okay, this is what I'm doing. And he said that works really successfully. And it's like, yeah, that's exactly it, because he's gotten to know that student personally and what that student needs, and then is able to apply that. And we have that in many different ways.
Yep.
We do. Our teachers work very, very hard. They do with that. And now it's just, okay, how can we simplify, instead of trying to ask teachers to do more, how can we have them do what they're doing now in a slightly different way where they can reach more students? And that's kind of the teacher clarity work that we are working on, is trying to simplify these complex concepts into more bite-sized pieces. So one, it makes a little bit less, teachers don't have to necessarily teach quite as much, they just have to teach to a different level. And then for students, they're not necessarily learning 18 things at once, it's very specified with what they're trying to learn at any given time.
Our whole goal is to be standards-based learning. And what that is standards for each grade level.
Right.
So each student, we would say, this is the standard we're teaching. So have you mastered this standard? Well, if they have, then they move on to the next standard.
Right.
If not, then we go back and we reteach that standard. So, and that's how ISASP is supposed to be written, is off those standards. So that's gonna help. We just aren't there yet, but we're working hard, and teachers are working hard. And I mean, some of this stuff we just brought in last year and this year, so they've really jumped in, and they're on board. I think that we have a great staff that's willing to do the extra work, and so it's coming.
Good to hear.
Any other questions?
Nice job, Justin.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hard work.
That's not me, I'm just presenting as our teachers. So.
Okay, well then we aren't giving you any more credit.
It's all right. Don't deserve it.
Next up, we will have the superintendent's report. Excuse me.
Okay, first thing I'd like to call the board's attention to is that for the first time in the 6 years I've been here, we had a steep enrollment drop. We had enrollment projections that were predicting enrollment drops in previous years, and we always did better than what was forecast for our district. But this year we had a significant drop. We've lost 35 students. We don't know what the heck happened. We counted them one day, and we think some of them just ended up in the wrong room or something like that. We just lost them. We have no idea. No, I'm being facetious. We had this tells a little bit of the story. You can see that we had a significant drop in our resident student count from 626 down to 599. Just fewer students within the boundaries of Belmond Klemme. At the same time, we've been making progress, having fewer students open enrolling out. And this year we had a big spike in open enrollment out. A lot of that came just in August. I mean, McKenna, you deal with that. We've had, any guess at how many kids just open enrolled in August?
I would say 25 to 30.
Wow, I wouldn't guess that high, but yeah, okay. And obviously the boundary was no open enrollments after March 1st, but the legislature took that off and said, if a kid wants to open enroll tomorrow, he or she can. And we had a lot of students that just showed up just before the start of school and open enroll, and a lot of students that, there are a few students that continue to open enroll out. So our actual enrollment is down, and also our students that are coming in from other districts, that drops some. But as we have lost students, some of those were actually gains as some other students did late open enrollment in. So it's a different game now that the legislature has changed those rules. But the bottom line is we had 688 bodies in student desks last year, and we're down to 653 this year. And since we're paying on a per pupil basis, that's a drop in funding of about $250,000. Questions on that?
It's a lot when you have all the same expenses, right? Like we have all the same expenses that we did without the 35 students.
Any idea of which direction are these kids going? I mean, are they going to Garner? Big one. Clarion.
We had a big count that went to Garner. McKenna, you wanna weigh in on that?
Yeah, a majority of the kids and applications that we got this year were preschoolers and kindergartners going to Gardner.
Do they have to give a reason why?
No,
No reason.
they haven't had to give a reason for years and years now. But even with these with these late filed applications, there's no reason necessary.
Do you mind
I mean-
if I add to that just a little bit?
Certainly, feel free.
So a lot of those applications that we received really late were not students who were attending here to begin with. We had a lot of people who moved into our district who chose to stay with the district they were already attending with.
That's true.
As far as late applications, people who were here and decided to move out, I mean, that was maybe 3 or 4 students, so not the bulk of it. We graduated a large class.
We did.
So with having, the graduating class was about 15 students larger than the kindergarten class that came in. And when you kind of look at our class sizes, I mean, the ones that are in the high school, they're bigger classes than the ones that are coming into kindergarten with those 45 to 50 counts each year. So it is a big drop. I don't think that it's done though either. I think we're gonna keep getting the smaller class sizes coming in. I don't think there's one particular thing though that led to those drops. I think some of our, I think we had some families that moved out of the area. So we did see some of those too, but the biggest impact we're seeing is large graduating classes and small kindergarten classes coming in.
Did we lose some students to the closing of Mosaic?
We did, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that was, so we lost about 15 to the graduating class. And just to guess, I would say probably about 5 kids
Yeah.
because of Mosaic.
That's what I thought.
In here somewhere, didn't it say that numbers, you're projecting that they're gonna continue to go down?
If you look at the chart that's on page 2 of my report, it's up there on the screen right now. The Iowa Department of Education does a statistical analysis. It's not based on actual counts of our students necessarily. They calculate, they estimate our kindergarten count according to the birth rate 5 years prior, and calculating on what percentage of that county birth rate ends up in Belmond Klemme schools. And that's what they figure for our kindergarten count. And then they do a statistical analysis of calculating how many students move in and out from grade to grade on average over a process of about 10 years. But you can see in 2017, 2018, we were at 800 students. And now the latest enrollment projection from last spring suggests that by 26, 27, in just 11 years, we're going to be down to 800 down to 684 maybe. And that's a significant loss in students.
We're already way under what they said for this year, right?
True.
Because we're at 653 and that was projected at 737.
Well,
Is that right? Am I
actual
looking at it
enrollment
right?
is 740. That's that number, 740, and this is 756. They predicted you are right. We are under that number. They were projecting we would have 756 and we were at 740. But obviously they didn't count for the fact that the open enrollment law changed.
Right.
But there is an exodus out of the rural areas.
Yes, there is.
They're going to Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, Ankeny, anywhere where the Belmond, Iowa.
Jobs are.
You know, there people want to live where there's something.
And part of this, we haven't been adding any new jobs in this area.
That's true.
We haven't added any new,
Yeah.
there's just literally no new jobs in Belmont. And, they've had new jobs in Eagle Grove, but not in Belmont. Expansion of jobs in Garner and Forest City, but not here.
Eagle Grove suffered a significant loss. I don't know if Clarion did, but Eagle Grove's down. We're obviously down 35. Eagle Grove is down 20 something.
Doesn't it show that Garner's down too? Right?
Now, that's old data. The top of that page is old data. If you notice, that's between 2015 and
sorry.
2020.
Yeah.
Just as a comparison to show that, yes, other schools are experiencing that kind of decline.
Sure.
Yeah, Gardner Hayfield over that 5 years dropped 100 kids. Yeah, they've been struggling and retooling.
Brett, same thing. It's not on here, but I've been watching Brett too, and they've dropped really, really fast.
Yeah, you're talking about the Ankeny one. You're lucky if you can get your kid into school down there in Ankeny.
Yeah.
There's just not enough space for all the kids.
Any other comments or questions about enrollment? Okay. As I mentioned at the end of last meeting, we are expecting federal security money coming to us. The state's got $100 million that they plan on spending on schools, and every school building in the state gets $50,000 to help make our buildings more secure. First step is that they send in, from Homeland Security sends in an assessor that meets with the school staff and does an assessment to help us determine what our security needs are. I suppose that's for accountability purposes, so we don't spend federal money unwisely, that it's got a verified purpose. We did our security assessments on our vulnerability assessments on Monday and Tuesday this week. So we'll be getting the report back. It'll be a while, a couple of months, but it's my understanding that sometime after that, we'll be able to start looking at what we want to do. Maybe the principals want to talk about some of the things that they're looking at with their buildings if they'd like to.
So I think for us, we have a pretty new building we're pretty safe in terms of everything works and locks. And the only thing that we really spend a lot of time talking about is we really like to upgrade our cameras inside and out of the building. They're we think 11 or so years old, and the technology was analog, that they bought analog at the time versus the digital, which is now obviously the thing. And the cameras don't swivel, they don't move. There's a lot of gaps, especially outside if there's something happens. And like the closest one to the playground is on the building. So playground's, 200 feet, whatever it is, 250 feet. So, there's stuff I can't, all you see is fuzz out past, 100 feet or so. So I think cameras is our probably number one thing that we're looking at.
We're looking at cameras too. We don't have any on the front of the building, so we for sure want some out there. And then some other places. We talked about lighting. His big thing was between halogen lighting and LEDs. And we have LEDs all around here, but we don't have any LEDs out front. So we talked about changing those and then fobbing more doors. Instead of having to have keys for doors, we'd like to put more fobs on doors.
The neighbors weigh in on not having LED lights out front.
Well,
That was discussed.
Oh, we discussed the LEDs over here in the parking lot. They have to go off at a certain time.
I'm just kidding.
And since this is a government and they do things in a market, that's $50,000 for every building, and that includes we have one classroom downtown, so that's a separate building. It looks like we're up to $50,000 for the downtown office. Not for the office, just for the classroom.
It's gonna be one nice classroom.
It'll be secure.
It's the safest room in the district.
Hey,
Yeah.
they'll have a camera on all the food down there, so nobody will see Pat's food.
Camera per desk.
Something I'd like to pursue with the board's permission is doing a meet and confer with our two professional associations, the Teacher Association and the Support Staff Association. If there are any board members that would like to participate in that, why then you can let me know. A couple other things that are not in my written report. Construction updates. We're coming down to it. We're missing a big piece of 4x4 glass in the interior of the academic entryway, and that's supposed to be here today, tomorrow. I don't think if it's not here today, I don't think it's coming in today. And they're going to install that shortly. The boilers are working. They've got some water cooler to get installed. We've got the electricians. We had several light fixtures that arrived broken, and they're working on that, and as well as some of the security cameras. And they have been, it's taken them a long time, but they have they were going to upgrade the sound panels in the band room. And they've done some of those, and they're going to continue to do that. There's a number of panels they have yet, including, what do they call those things that, there are some little doohickeys that hang in the ceiling that divert the direction of the sound. I forget what those things are called.
Do they help kids?
Yes.
I mean, you guys, I know you play in the band, you both do. And I'm just, if they help, that's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
What about the chorus room? Has that been?
They never had any concerns with the volumes in there.
Yeah,
Sound
go ahead.
It
quality.
was so loud in the band room, it would give Mr. Sitzer like migraine. It was loud. There's a lot of people in there for that size of room.
Okay.
It also helps even out the sound, so you can hear across the room better.
It's a better balance. Like you can hear like I sit on the far side of the room and I can hear all the way across
Okay.
and what the other side is playing.
Now, have you been using the new sound system where it records what you play and then plays it right back to you immediately?
We have not yet, but I imagine we do a lot of recordings kind of for contests and things like that. So I'm sure we'll use that
Because
eventually.
I'm sure you noticed there's microphones hanging all throughout the ceilings in there, so it can record the whole band as it performs and then give immediate feedback.
They're heading they're gonna go to the Philharmonic here pretty quick with all that good equipment.
Regarding the special ed suite down the hall, it's been kind of been in kind of a state of
Mess.
stasis for the last couple of weeks, but they say they're getting on it. I saw 6 men crowded into the room today. Been nice just to have two in the room at a time over the last 2 weeks, but instead nothing for 2 weeks and then 6 in one day. But they ordered the wrong size countertop. They've refitted that, and that's going to be installed early next week. We've got state-of-the-art lighting in there that's completely adjustable in brightness, dimness, colors, according to the moods, helping to control the emotions of the students in there. And we're eager to see that, but that was delayed by some supply chain issues. But that's supposed to be, we should be coming toward that and maybe even be working on that tonight. I think we're putting in appliances tonight, isn't that right, McKenna? We're putting in like the range and the microwave and the dishwasher tonight. We've got a hood above the range, and that's supposed to go in within the next day or two. And then we've got some glass panels that go in those doors for the apartment, and we should see that come shortly. So that's where we are. We're wrapping it up. Now we've got a grand opening on, it's on the agenda a little bit later, but we've got that for Thursday of next week. I can't guarantee we'll be completely open for the opening, but we'll be darn close, I think. I have one other thing to add, and that is our Rainbow Six Siege esports team went undefeated this year. They are rated #1 in their division across the state, and they are state bound again this year.
Oh, my Lord. I can't believe these kids. They're blowing us away.
So congrats to Trish Morris and Leo Livingston, who actually coaches the Rainbow Six Siege team and our Rainbow Six Siege Warriors.
Ooh. 2 questions. Are we having good snacks next Thursday?
We are. We are. Don't ask me what they are, but Wendy Mines has promised to be involved.
And most of us will be there for the snipping.
Sounds horrible.
Okay, I'm excited. This is gonna be big time.
All right, that's my report tonight.
Thank you. Any questions for our superintendent? Hearing none, we'll move on to the principals.
Yeah, you're on.
Okay, well, it's been a crazy month. We finished up fall sports. I just happened to meet Isaac Swenson and Aldo and Braden in the hall, and they just got back from the cross-country state qualifying meet, and Isaac has qualified for the state meet again.
Yes.
He hasn't ran all year, but he went tonight and he got 7th, so.
Wow.
Yeah, so he'll be competing, of course, the R6 and the Smash Bros, they're going to state too, correct, Trish? Yeah, so both of the esports teams will be attending that. We are prepping for the fall play, which is the 4th and the 5th, and that's no vacancy. These two, want to say anything about that? Guys?
And I've been working really hard on it, so I'm really excited. It's funny, and we've got a really young cast, so it's really fun to work with, kind of mentor a little bit a lot of freshmen. So it's really fun to work with them and learn more about them.
So we're gonna laugh our tails off, right?
Yeah. I'm excited to. But you're not making a cameo this year?
No, not this time.
Darn it.
Maybe in the spring. You never know. We might do something in the spring. They don't want me in a full act. FFA goes to National Convention next week. They are taking 9. They will be recognized as a 2-star national chapter. So they'll get a walk across the stage and receive an award and on Thursday of next week when they're gone. So that's exciting for us. We are, with the construction stuff, we're getting things moved into the offices. Teachers are very appreciative of the nice teachers lounge. They go in there and they have lunch, and you hear lots and lots of good things about it. Their biggest thing is staff bathrooms. They love the staff bathrooms. So, if you don't hear anything from them, they do appreciate that for sure. Also next week we end the first quarter. So 9 weeks in on Wednesday. So it's been a fast 9 weeks, but it's been a good 9 weeks. So we're plugging away, and winter things will be starting real soon. And start second quarter. Yeah, so that's all that's really happening with us. Any questions? You guys have anything to add? Okay.
So I feel like we haven't talked forever. I have a lot of little things I just wanted to mention. Tiffany Arns is our instructional coach, so she does what Justin does at our building. She was unable to come tonight, so she's going to talk more about our data. But I would say pretty much most of what Justin said about what they do with their data at the high school, we do at the elementary school as well. We look at the FAST and the ISASS. One of the things that is really nice for us now is that we've had FAST data all across the board, so we know how our kids have done from the time they were in kindergarten to now. But we lost almost 2 years worth of data during the ISASS time because we didn't give them that spring when we were out of school, and then they didn't give them the next year. So we didn't have any comparisons. One thing I will say, I don't always give the DE credit, but I'll give them credit for this, is that the school performance stuff that they give us is actual measuring kids from year to year, not last year's third grade class with this year's third grade class, because that doesn't make any sense. It never did, but that's the way they used to do it. Now they actually do track growth from third to fifth, fourth to sixth, that sort of thing. So we don't have that data yet. We don't have that score yet from the state, but at least we know it's apples to apples. It's the same, roughly the same 50 kids. I did want to add a thing about the class size. In our building, K6, our range is, except for one class, is between like 43 and 49. So almost all our classes are in the, pretty much in that same, there's 45, 46, 48, 7, 43, K through 6. So it's been pretty consistent since I've been there. And in some ways, that's really good for us, because when I first came, we had a couple groups where we had to do 3 sections, and it was hard to put them in there, and kids got used to being in a bigger class and they're in a smaller class, and it was kind of a rough time when we didn't know who was going to teach, what subjects, et cetera, especially with the older grades. So it's actually kind of nice knowing it's 2 sections, 2 sections, 2 sections when we get up to the upper grades now. And so of course we'd love to grow, but our building's full, so I don't know where we put them all. One thing that we're still doing this year, and we've done it since I came, I guess the first year I came, the first hour of the day or so is devoted to what we call Bronco Hour. And we talked about what Justin was talking about as far as breaking kids down and figuring out where kids are missing. And so instead of just using our 18 classroom teachers, we use all 33 or 34 of our licensed staff, and they break kids down into smaller groups and work with them on whatever skills that they're working with. Sad to say, even I have 6 kids who had to suffer through me every day for 20 minutes teaching and segmenting. So if you want to see somebody teaching first graders how to do cow, ow, that's me. That's my deal, segmenting. That's what we call segmenting, which is a skill they have to learn to be, become proficient readers. And some of our kids aren't quite there yet. So unfortunately, they drew the short straw for this 8 weeks with me. But so we utilize those teachers. We use our art teacher, our music teacher, our title teachers, and we can have groups of 6, 7, 8 kids and work on those skills for 20 minutes in math and 20 minutes in reading every day. So that's really helpful. We're also doing the typing again this year. grades 2 through 6 work on 10 minutes, first 10 minutes of the day on the typing club. Even though we don't have a tag teacher this year, again, they do the short straw, so I get to coordinate that this year. But the kids are doing a nice job. We've made it fun, and they really look forward to some of the rewards they get. In terms of some of the skill work, we added some work on what's called Haggerty, which is a audio visual phonemic awareness, I have to remember to get that term right. Phonemic awareness, which is individual sounds, and phonological awareness, which is the like ing sounds and ending sounds and bigger sounds. And that's something that they're really working hard with in addition to our reading curriculum that they have. PTOs really done a nice job this year. Kate Nelson and Melissa Arnold, want to put a shout out to them. We did our readathon, which is kind of a new thing for us. Our students over a 2-week period plus read 68,000 minutes. They raised something like $3,000 and change. They're purchasing, we met today, they're going to purchase 2,000 books for our school. Some to give away to kids, some to put in the library, some to give to teachers. And we have a little surprise coming next Friday, so I'm not going to give it away. So you have to either show up or watch the newspaper. So we have a little surprise about how we're going to give away some of the books.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
kids did a nice
seriously
job.
amazing.
Kids were really focused and really they were picking their books up and reading them. And again, I know I've talked about it before, but N.A. Duran's done a great job in our library. Really made it a festive atmosphere. She reads to the kids, doing a nice job. She isn't a trained librarian, but she really gets kids and works with them. As Justin said, our culture and climate work with Willow Sweeney, along with our teacher clarity work, is the focus of our PD this year. Tiffany is mostly in charge of the PD in terms of the teacher work. But what we really determined over the years, looking at our data, looking at our scores, is that we have not consistently looked at standards and mastery of standards across the spectrum. So from kindergarten to 6th grade, really making sure that every piece gets touched so that by the time they get to 6th grade, they haven't had a gap. And again, part of that, we lost a lot of learning in that year plus that we were in COVID. And that's something that I know everybody talks about in my profession. I met with our area principals group, which was really fun because I got to brag about our school and our board and all the neat things they do. I can't already talk about it at our meetings because they talk about having our EL students and how we work with them. I said, well, we have 7 full-time paras that are bilingual and our teacher, and they just go, like, we have 1. They don't have as many kids as we do, but they might have 40 kids and they have 1 person in the building who speaks Spanish. We're so lucky. We have 7 plus Claudia, and Tiffany does a great job over here, I know. And there's EL paras here at high school as well. That doesn't count. That's just ours. And the other thing is we met, kind of went around the room, talked about what we pay paras. And Clarion and Belmont are pretty similar, 15 and change. But there are districts, and I won't say who it is, in our area that are paying $11, $11.50. And they can't find people. They're all short paras. And we started the year with exactly the number we needed. I think Ms. Jensen was able to, by the time things really got going, was able to hire up. But still, if you know anybody who wants to be a para, we'll always need subs. We always look for subs.
And for comparison's sake, you say they're starting at 11 compared to us, they're starting at 15.
15, yep. And they say, they're frank, that's not enough. We can't give people $11 an hour that are quality that we want to hire.
They'll be at McDonald's in a flash.
Well, yeah, and one of the towns that was at this meeting, they have a McDonald's and they pay $13.50 an hour.
Sure.
To start.
And
it's full time.
There's an area school that doesn't compete well in pay, and they do not provide insurance. And we provide insurance.
So we're very lucky, and across our area, class size, growth, loss of students, it's pretty comparable. I'd say we're no worse and no better. Our class sizes are decent. Their class sizes, everybody's in the 20s for upper grades and upper teens for lower grades. I think everyone's pretty consistent. So we're very lucky here. So again, just thank you for everybody for all you do and all the good work that you've done for us, because we appreciate that. So, and if you want to hear me teach segmenting, 8:50 to 9:10 every day in the conference room.
I think that sounds like a great retirement job for Gary.
You got all kinds of jobs.
Boy, I'm getting loaded up with jobs.
3-year-old preschool needs someone to read to their class.
I know. Hey, you need to send me that link again so I can actually bookend sometimes.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay.
We have a lot of fifth and sixth graders that, if they're making progress in their reading and they don't need to be working with these small groups, they go and read to the third grade.
So they're gonna help out the old people, is that it?
No, I'm just saying, they're all, it's competition here. And you have to get to the starting line there.
I do sounds and everything. You know?
So that's all I have. Any questions?
Well, you bring up a good point. We need to stay on top of that, keeping our paras and our teachers. Because we don't want to fall into the other wagon with the other situations those other schools are in. We don't want to get there. So we need to keep that, we don't want to lose sight of that.
Well, and Claudia is a huge recruiter. I mean, she's always talking to high school kids, juniors and seniors, about what their plans are next year and where they're going and what they're doing. And a lot of our graduates have been able to come back like during Christmas break, Thanksgiving break. And because school gets out, college gets out, doesn't start till September, it gets out in May.
Right.
So we've had a lot of high school students who graduated, came back and have been sub-paras for us in the last couple of years, especially during those breaks, which is great.
I don't know if this is a good time to say it, but I thought it was really cool that the blueprint is back. Like, that's really awesome.
They're excited. Are you guys part of that? Either one of you?
know. I love reading them.
Yeah.
It's so fun to see,
And they're excited about it.
it's really cool.
Yeah.
So good job. to
Austin's
Austin
doing a
for
great
that.
job.
Yeah.
For whatever it's worth, it's teaching kids how to be journalists.
Right.
And I think we've lost that here for a number of years. We didn't have the blueprint. We didn't, if there was any journalism going on, I don't know where it was being done, but it certainly wasn't done for public consumption. And so it's a higher standard when you have to make me excited about reading the blueprint. You know?
Sure.
And they're teaching good skills, interviewing. They came and interviewed me. You know, I thought they did a great job. They had, that takes, they gotta have prepared, they gotta be prepared, they gotta know what to ask.
Right.
And it's students that you wouldn't expect some of them.
Really?
Yeah, it's amazing that kids that you would never ever, I mean, I don't know who came to interview you, but I've been interviewed a couple of times and they're like, they don't even hardly talk, first of all. But then they come and, they can ask questions. I mean, they're very professional and yes, he's done a great job of prepping them and the process that they put out, so they've done great.
Do they do the layout of it and everything too? Like the design of it and all of that?
No, I think,
You lay it out? Okay.
thank you for letting us do it.
Yes, thank you.
Fun, and we have made so many new friends at Fairway. We can now have Fairway, the kids stopping and sit, and this is my story for next time.
That's great
The
though.
lunch lady, I'm very excited about the lunch lady.
Oh.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
I have one more thing to say. So Derek Barner, that's his name, right? The new coach. I think it is amazing the job that he's doing with the youth right now, in basketball and coaching. And it's kind of neat to see how Lee and Don and Lindy have built up volleyball, and I see basketball going in that same direction. So whoever hired him, like the kids really seem to like him, and he's doing a great job.
Good. It's good to hear.
Anything else for our principals? Any questions, any comments? Hearing none, I think we can move on to our action items. First would be board and superintendent goals.
Okay, you see them up on the screen now. This first goal, I think the board was in agreement that our first goal needs to be student achievement. Well, the last time we did goals, our goal was student achievement.
Right.
And this is basically only slightly modified from what we had 3 years prior. And so I'll just throw this out. The board does not need to decide on this tonight. It's in the action items. The board can just choose to take action, but you do not have to. You can take some time and consider this. But anyway, this is what this is what we've had in the past, and see how this suits the board this time.
Well, Justin's report tonight helped us get a little bit focused on that. And we don't actually make things happen necessarily, but we certainly monitor it, and then we can encourage changes if it needs to happen.
However, the Iowa Association of School Boards has done some fascinating research that the schools where the school board takes a personal interest in student achievement, those schools are more likely to have higher student achievement. It does make a difference.
Y'all like the wording of that? I think it's pretty.
I thought it was really good. Yeah.
And it's based on what we
we
said
discussed.
when we had our
Mhm.
get together.
It's just cleaned up and presented in
Well, yeah,
a
somebody
presentable manner.
rewrote the language.
Yes.
This was yours, wasn't it, Teresa?
Yeah. That looks like something, right?
It's about 7 more words than what she wrote.
All right, we can take a look at the second goal. I think we're focusing on the climate and culture of our school staff. So the board would be monitoring that. They'd be trying to learn more about what we're doing and how we can improve that. So that would be the goal. How does the board feel about that?
Very positive about
Good.
that.
I like that.
And I'm suggesting that we get reports. It's probably going to be coming from our instructional coaches like Justin Meyer and Tiffany Arns, because they're the ones that are getting up to their elbows in this issue this year. That's been a distinct improvement over what we've done in some previous years. And so they'd be coming in, and I'm assuming we want something mid-year and toward the end of the year. Does that sound about right? Now, this is very hard to assess. It's not easy to measure. There are assessments that do this kind of thing, but they're so broad, and they have more to do with student climate than staff climate, and they sometimes touch on all sorts of issues that have nothing to do with what we're dealing with. They might have to touch on things like chemical use by staff and all sorts of goofy things. And this is, so we're probably going to be, we kind of set out that we would just be meeting with staff and doing more gathering more qualitative data, which is to say people's opinions, people's verbal feedback.
Certainly, we all understand that if the staff is energized and confident and comfortable, they're going to do a much better job in engaging their students as well. And that's our goal. And we all need to be on the same team. And if they're not happy, then we need to know that.
Other feedback on this, school board?
No, I mean, I think it's great. I think it sums up what we talked about and gives us some places to go move forward.
It's a way for us to simply, the reason we set these goals obviously is so that we can look back at them and say, okay, how have we done? Have we made progress in this? Has there been some clear, distinct improvement in the culture and the climate? And the feedback is always difficult to figure out what we're getting and who's it coming from, and is it broad-based, or is it simply a couple of people that are really happy or not so happy, or is it a culture, of the whole group? That's always difficult to evaluate. I know that.
I included the form that Harry Heiligenthal gave us 3 years ago.
I love that form.
And it was basically, this is the script for the school board to ask when these groups are presenting, like when Justin Meyer is presenting tonight. And he's talking about how he's using that spreadsheet to track the students, and you ask him, what is this intended to improve? and those kinds of questions. We board want to continue to use this and include this in the packet as we work ahead on this?
I do.
I think so. Yeah.
This is, I look at it every time we have somebody come in, I look at this just to see, I need to be pertinent, I need to be asking the right questions. And David, you heard David tonight, he told us what he needed. He told us what he said specifically, and so I didn't have to ask the question, what can we do to help you improve your program?
Yeah, and that's number 6.
Yeah.
Number 6, what are the roadblocks and challenges? And the final question is, what can the board do to help?
Yeah.
So, the board feel like they want to take action and approve these goals tonight as they're written?
I feel like we could, yeah.
Anybody have a problem with that? Did everybody get a chance to look them over ahead of time? And
I did.
I think it's very important that we let the public, our staff, and our students all know what our goals are and how we're gonna measure them. And this does that.
I agree.
Okay, well, if everybody thinks we should vote on it, we can vote on it. I would look for a motion.
Motion.
Motion from Heather, I'm looking for a second.
Second.
Second from Michelle. Any further discussion on this? Hearing no discussion, I would call for a vote. All those in favor of the goals as they have been presented to us, as we have decided they should be, I should say, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next, you'll find the next one on page 56, excess cost of limited English proficient program.
Oh, there's something I didn't check there. It says 2021, and I think the reason I really haven't updated this is because it's not ready. Teresa, you want to comment on that?
I will just briefly here. So the Department of Education in their finance area, they have 5 new people this year, which is over half of their staff. So they've been running a little bit behind, and of the remaining, some people have switched positions. So anyway, this application, they keep pushing back the due date. I looked at it today and couldn't even, they took it down completely. The application's not even available. Supposedly, it'll be due mid-November. In theory, we should have it by then. It's coming.
And what's the deadline for submission?
Well, the
The
deadline is
original
October 15th.
deadline or the new one?
October 15th. Oh,
Yeah, and now it's been pushed back to November 15th. We'll see. Maybe January.
okay. Yeah, we need to make the application already.
Next one, you'll find on 57, college and career transition counselor position through NIAC.
NIAC got this grant to hire a college and career transition counselor. And NIAC then started looking for partners. And what they were looking for was school districts that still had money for sharing. The state gives out to try to encourage school districts to find efficiencies by sharing with other districts. The state has funds they give out. Since Belmond Klemme does very little with sharing, why then we have lots of money we could gain from the state to participate in this. 2 other schools had money available, West Fork and West Hancock. And so we 3 schools are in this partnership with NIAC. NIAC has a grant to fund it the first year, and we file it as a shared position this year, and that means we get money a year in arrears, so we'll get funding next year toward this position. And essentially, this is a freebie for us. So this person's job will be to come in, and obviously if there are kids that want to go to NIAC, to help them there, but if they want to go to Hawkeye or some other community college, they'll advise them on that, or if they want to go to a 4-year college, they're prepared to work with them. Likewise, if they plan on going directly into the workplace, the key is just a transition counselor for those next years after high school, not just to NIAC, but on any one of those paths. So, and because, frankly, it's because Belmond Klemme has had some chaos in prior years, that when this sharing money started, other districts partnered up, and they created these partnerships and had these sharing partners. And Belmond Klemme was experiencing some chaos, and we didn't seek out sharing partners. And since I've been here, we've been eager to find sharing opportunities, but pretty much everybody's partnered up. And if they can't get more money, they don't want to share anymore. So, but fortunately, we still had this option available to us when this came.
May I also say, I think this is important for us to move forward, mostly because of the limited time our current high school council has to help with this kind of work. I mean, the reality is there's too much work to be done for the staff person we have.
And that's part of the intention of NIAC, is the idea that with mental health issues and everything else that a counselor has going on this year, this is something that they can help relieve and help alleviate some of the workload on our high school guidance counselors.
Just a question, have you been getting help in applications for colleges and schools?
I personally did not need that much help because I went in and I filled it out on my own pretty easily. But it'd be really cool to know that if I needed help, I could get it at any time.
It's good now.
Yeah, I am doing almost all of it myself right now. I'm trying to fill out like the FAFSA myself. I'm applying 4 different places, like 3 of them out of state, and it is a really confusing process. So I definitely would have liked something like this like sooner, but I'm really glad we're having it now, and especially like when the local scholarships come out, like I want to know all the ones that I would qualify for, that I would be able to apply for, and even like the national scholarships. Like I didn't know to be a national merit scholar, like you would have had to take the SAT. I have not taken the SAT. I'm okay with not applying for the national merit, but like if I really wanted to, I didn't really know that.
Yeah, I understand.
So, yeah, and for the FAFSA, that was really hard for me to fill out, especially with a lot of like special circumstances I'm currently facing. So I had to reach out all the way to the college I was applying for, and their counselor helped me. But if I had one here that I could reach out more easily to, that would be very helpful.
And she just started 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
So she's just kind of getting her feet wet with Mr. Albertson and trying to see things. So yeah, it's good to hear these things, and we'll for sure get her where we can get some signups or something so we can go see her and talk to her. And yeah.
Has she been in to meet your staff yet?
No, not officially.
Is she coming in next Tuesday or what?
She only comes on Thursdays.
Okay, but I think she was coming in to meet with your faculty some morning, wasn't she? Sometime.
We'll figure out a time.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Well, I assume that she would schedule time for students to meet with her, right?
yes, eventually, yes. Like I said, today was her only second time to be here.
Okay,
So, yeah.
I got it.
And if I understand it correctly, they'll also provide assistance with possibly apprenticeship or going right into a career. I read that right?
Absolutely,
Yes.
career guidance, yeah. I don't know if that applies to military, but I don't see why it wouldn't.
Why not?
I don't have an answer. But workplace definitely.
Military is a really good career opportunity to get your education, obviously.
Absolutely, with all the money for college kids.
And they're begging for people, good qualified kids to go into the military.
Kid wants to go to college and can't afford it. They can look at that and they can easily afford college with that route.
Okay. I move we enter into this agreement.
That's what I was looking for. Now I need a second. I get a second from Jim. Any more discussion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Providing students with additional music lessons.
What was up next?
Music lessons.
Okay, music lessons, good. Mr. Stitsworth, he's creating problems for himself. He keeps growing his band, which makes his music room too loud. And it presses him for enough time to get all his lessons in. If he'd just be a little more slack, why then he wouldn't have to deal with all this. Of course, I'm being facetious because we want him to be the perfectionist he is and continue to achieve the success. He criticized part of our entryway coming into by the music rooms earlier this week. He said, there's one section that is just brick and it doesn't have any tile and that looks odd. And I had to explain, well, that's where your trophy case goes. Your job is to fill that.
Trophy case, right?
I don't think he'll have any problem doing that.
No, he won't.
In the meanwhile, we're getting his sound panels up and we're trying to improve the sound quality in his band room, and also to make him happy, he has requested, can we hire some additional support for music lessons? And he proposes like just saying something, $25 per hour to bring in some outside individual who come into the building and help out by working with some of our students here at the high school, because Mr. Stitsworth really devotes his time to the younger kids. He gets them really good, gets them feeling good about music, and then they stick with it. They come through and they grow his high school band. So I think this is something that's very affordable. We could easily afford like $5,000 that we could put out toward $25 an hour for 4 to 6 hours a week.
Yeah.
The board would agree to that.
What's interesting, we have 2 former band instructors living in Belmond right now. Dave Swaroff,
Yep.
who came up from Dayton,
Oh, that's right.
and Al Madison. I mean, whether they're gonna be interested, I don't know, but
Dave would, I would guess Dave.
Dave might.
Mr. Madison has said he was already interested. I've already
Really?
said
There we go.
Good deal. So you want a motion?
Please.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
I'll second. Okay. Any more discussion?
This is awesome. This is a great problem to have. I'm excited.
Oh, yeah.
My only request is that we just play outside more, because I really enjoy that morning.
Okay.
During homecoming week, I love that.
I can hear it from here.
Yeah, I do, I love it.
I hear one of the students practicing their music clear across the park up in West Belmont.
Really?
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes, there's a student that goes, sits in the park and.
He sits in the
practices.
park and
Yes.
I can hear it clear over at my house.
Yes.
You can come over anytime you'd like to hear that.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next is baseball.
I just add that to the agenda. There are
In case
board
we
members
need
who want to see that on the agenda in case there's anything you'd like to discuss.
Excited that it's back.
I'm glad we've got coaches and Mr. Touches is a really skilled individual. And I hope the kids come back to the program. So
Right now, we're looking at a full varsity and JV squad. Our initial numbers suggest.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, COVID hurt us. I mean, Wright County got hit especially hard. We shut down our baseball program and some of our high school kids lost interest. But right now, we do have a home and away scheduled for us next summer. We're expecting about 20 baseball players, enough to field both a JV and a varsity team.
I like the fact that we're having a younger coach who's could be mentored. I think more of our younger coaches could benefit from being mentored in that way. Because let's face it, those guys aren't gonna coach forever. If we have the younger coaches that are being mentored, that would fill those spots later.
And plus those guys have some experience in the college level and
Right.
they can bring a lot of skill sets to teaching kids how to be better baseball players.
No actions there. So we're down to discussion items. New director district plan for discussion item.
Okay, this is just discussion by state rules, I think it is. We cannot approve this until November. And first day we can approve it is November 15th, and that's the night of our meeting. And but the lines really have not changed since last time, although the numbers have changed. If you remember, there was a slight error in how those were numbered, and I found out between the inset and the outer part, both of them were wrong. So they originally had the northern district as 1, and then down here they had the blue as 2, and then the North Belmont and the northern suburbs was 3, and that should be the other way around. Because right now Ryan is 2 extends up to Goodell, and that's where what Ryan represents right now. So I'm saying, for consistency's sake, just keep those numbers the same. But if the board finds this acceptable, why then obviously we will vote on this next month.
Sounds good.
This is a lot simpler than some other places. This is the third time I've done one of these. One of these 10-year.
You know what that says? You've been around a long time, Dr. Frazier.
Yeah. I know, too long, I know that.
I think it makes a little more sense than last time. Maybe.
Well, and if what she says is true,
Well, I mean,
you and Sharon are gonna be in the same district where,
Yeah, but I mean, Chew used to go all the way to get up.
yeah, that's nuts.
You're in town and then you're clear out 5 miles north.
That's
That's
bonkers.
crazy.
And Ryan, Sharon really wants to rerun, but she is willing to step aside and allow you to have that district next time.
What a lady.
I would, oh yeah, I'd be just across the line.
You bet.
You
You're a
pick up your house-
shoe-in, you're a
you pick up
shoe-in,
your house and
right?
move it across the
Yeah.
road or something.
Yeah, move across the road. Yeah, that looks good.
Okay, next on our discussion items would be the, ribbon cutting ceremony.
Are we having any acts or dancing or songs or a band?
You were supposed to put that together.
Oh, jeez, I
There's a
screwed up.
band concert.
Well, we were thinking about having the band show up, but we'd be asking an awful lot of them because we'd be having the band perform at 5 and then turn around again at 7. So
That's true.
all right. And we said, well, we could have the choir, but so many of the choir kids are also in the band. So we said, okay, we won't do that.
Okay.
However, we are going to have some teachers that are going to be doing some student demonstrations in the building.
Oh, juggling and things?
Not necessarily that. We've got the, Mr. Lynch is going to have his blueprint kids working in his classroom. Ms. Reed is going to have some of our art students working in the art room. We're going to have the esports teams competing in here. Of course, they don't need any encouragement to have an extra team to play esports. What else am I missing? Who else is going to be here, CK?
Lights.
Snacks.
Wendy Mines with some of her
She's gonna have some
family
cafe stuff.
consumer-sized kids
Yep.
doing the snack stuff.
Yeah, that's exciting. The snacks part of it.
Butler will be here. Mrs. Barkala will be at National Convention, but she's gonna have some kids here. Maybe talk a little bit about the greenhouse if people wanna go down and see that. So,
Good.
But I'm suggesting we're gonna open up the doors at 5 and the whole building is gonna be laid wide open from 5 to 7 with the idea that if there are people who just want to come in just before the concert, they can. If they'd like to come in right at 5. But I'd like to suggest to the board, how would you feel about a ribbon cutting ceremony at 5:15? And I say that rather pejoratively because I've already put it in the paper that it's.
I saw that. I already saw it in the paper. Yes.
I first put that question out before
I think that was
Lee and I jumped on this.
Dan, that was a really good idea you had.
I think 5:10 would be better.
Yeah.
Let's check.
Yeah, right, let's fiddle with, well, you know what? The people of this community and this school district have spent a lot of money getting us ready for the next 20 years. And this is phenomenal to have not one, but two phenomenal facilities for education. We have the Jacobson building, which was a real endeavor. And now we've taken this building, what was it, 62? 58?
62.
61, 62. And we've made this into a whole new facility almost. And that's phenomenal. I mean, I am proud to have been a part of that because we had to borrow almost nothing to make that happen. And it was just through good spending habits and making good choices, bidding the work when it was, we could do it less expensively. And now we got this stuff for these kids. My heavens, this is phenomenal. Well, I hope you kids like it, don't you?
Yes.
I thought you would, especially if you get the soundboards up in the band room, right?
Yeah.
Because you've seen it from between 7th grade and 12th grade, to make all these changes.
I'm very excited for the new practice rooms. We've been needing them for a long time.
So this is gonna be fun event. I hope everybody in the community shows up to see how we spent their money.
Okay, so we move on to the annual convention, the 77th annual convention.
Is that in
November
77?
16th.
So we just need a little more definite account of who plans to attend.
I'm in.
I'm going.
Jim, Michelle,
I am not.
Heather won't be there.
What
Yeah, I
about,
think
you
the
gonna make a
exact
ride
dates
this
are
year?
here.
I don't know. I'll have to,
It's a party. We have good, we learned so much down there.
I know. Let's see. I can't commit right now.
And they give away snacks. I mean, that's the best part. They have snacks all the time.
Sensing a theme.
You think?
There's cookies all day long, it seems like, right?
Warm
Hot cookies. They bake them right there and you just drop them down.
I would love to go. I haven't been able to go yet, but
Yeah, well,
unfortunately, I'm still in that position being shorthanded.
yeah.
I saw you the other night sitting at the baseball field in your truck at like 7 o'clock at night, and I was like, holy crap, because you were there at 7:30 in the morning when.
So, but we will be well represented. And next we would have, board comments or things you'd like to see on the agenda in the future. Does anybody have anything tonight? Like always, you can always think about it.
Next agenda is the organizational meeting, of course.
Yeah, that's
So we'll do 2 meetings in one night.
Busy.
And then we'll have the reports back from the assessment on the security.
No,
No.
not for a couple months yet.
Oh, okay.
It's just where we have our final meeting for the year and then
Do the new one.
do our first meeting for the upcoming year.
At the risk of bringing up a really bad subject, so we can talk about it later if you don't want to talk about it now. So a lot of younger kids are asking about wrestling this time of the year. Is there anything happening for youth? Like, is the booster club, like the wrestling booster club, doing anything that anyone knows about? No?
I have no clue.
I thought that somebody would do something, as there was a lot of people that came and talked, so it's kind of disappointing. Trying to rebuild the program up, and no one is stepping forward to do it.
Well, we have no plans to do anything with the wrestling room. So it's either gonna be utilized by people that would like to utilize it properly, or it's going to sit empty.
Oh, good storage.
I have had a couple of people come up and ask about the wrestling room. And I have told them that it was going to be available, that the school was gonna make it available, even without talking to you, Dr. Frazier, because I knew you agree with that. But that's all I've had is a couple, I have not had anybody come up and tell me that they are working on the youth program or they have plans for the youth program. And I would agree with you, that's kind of disappointing.
Could find somebody to start a taekwondo class.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu or something. Yeah. Don't forget, everybody, next meeting's on a Tuesday night, not a Thursday.
Right. Tuesday the 15th, I think it is. I think that my,
Yes.
I'm looking
my
at,
agenda says the 17th.
yeah, mine is too, but it's not them.
Yeah, we changed it for the conference.
So we can go to the meeting, the one meeting.
If we
Another
have,
reason why we couldn't have your retirement that week too, Jerry. We're gonna be gone.
On that Thursday?
Well, Wednesday, Thursday, yeah.
No, I understand that. I've already figured out my plane tickets for the day after the, yes, I know, my retirement party. Trying to find a spot where there's not conflicts. It's to be difficult. We're still trying to put in new carpet in the buildings.
It's gonna happen.
I know, I'm counting on you, Michelle. You're a master at getting that stuff put together. Okay,
we have nothing else. I would look
It's not
for a
even
motion.
9 o'clock. Well, can't we just drag this out till 9?
Absolutely not. No.
I would look for a motion
I
for
would-
adjournment.
So moved.
Second, there we go, we're done. Gary, you're more than welcome to stay here.
No, I'm